Welcome to Culture on I-24 News, where we bring you the stories from the world of entertainment and art. I'm Yael Wisner-Levy, filling in for Ded Grober. Today on the show, we'll say goodbye to director Wes Craven, who passed away at the age of 76. We'll hear about street musicians playing for passersby in London. And we'll meet the man behind Saga, a new space for Israeli design. We begin today with the death of the famed film director Wes Craven. Avri Rosenstreet is here in studio to tell us about the man and his work. Avri, what a man, huh?
What a man, indeed. You know, I'm not a big horror fan, I can say, but Wes Craven, he's up there with John Carpenter as one of the masters, the modern masters of horror, and you could not escape his films. You know, he was a big impact on culture, on movies, and he was very special for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about. He died recently. He succumbed to brain cancer after a long battle. Unfortunately, it was 76. He had a good run in the movies, at least. He started in 1972 with a movie called Last House on the Left, which was a very violent sort of horror thriller. It was sort of a revenge thriller dealing with rape. It was not an easy movie, and in the sort of shock horror method of those days, they advertise it with "just remind yourself, it's just a movie, it's just a movie." They were very
suspenseful.
They like to do that, yeah. He moved on to The Hills Have Eyes and other things, but what, of course, brought him to the public attention in 1984 was A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
He said that he was sort of inspired by a street next to where he lived, and it was really sort of a very unique horror movie. We all remember Freddy Krueger, who haunts people in their dreams. He also had a knack for finding talent. Johnny Depp, in his first major film role in his movies. He also discovered other artists throughout his life. Sharon Stone, he gave her her first starring role, and even Bruce Willis in an episode of The Twilight Zone in the 1980s.
So he definitely was scouting out these young artists, but he also kind of imagined or created this new genre of horror films back in the 90s. That's what I remember very well.
Yes, well, he sort of created and recreated. Well, that was Freddy Krueger movies were sort of a revival of the teen horror movie, and then of course in 1995. He made a Scream, and that was sort of the first time he reinvented himself and sort of deconstructed the horror genre and reinvigorated it for a new generation. He sort of gave it a new lease on life. We all remember the Scream movies, the wonderful opening scene with Drew Barrymore, and really it's spoofing the genre while being a good entry into the genre, and it's a very, very fun movie.
It became a cult film almost. Of course, there was Scream 1, 2, 3. It became...
Yeah, there were, and now there's a TV show which he executive produced about it. Yeah, it was a very big franchise. Now, everybody knows him as a horror movie. He tried to get a little bit out of the ghetto. In 1999, he made Music of the Heart, starring Meryl Streep, which actually won her, not won her, but gave her a nomination for the Oscar for that movie about a music teacher working with inner city kids in Harlem. And he said that because of his name, he thought people didn't want to go see that movie. People weren't willing to see him as a not horror director,
right.
And he thought that it hurt the movie. But he said something very interesting. He said, "If I have to do the rest of the films in the horror genre, no problem. If I'm going to be a caged bird, I'll sing the best song I can." There
you go. Well, he definitely did sing the best song he could in terms of horror, and he will be sorely missed.
Yeah, he will.
Avri Rosensvee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Even in the age of digital sales and YouTube, the sight of young aspiring musicians playing on the street is common in London and is still considered a stepping stone on the way to stardom. We have more now in this next report.
I never made promises lightly. I wasn't brave enough to tell you how I feel.
One guitar, one voice, one capital city. The streets of London are Charlotte Campbell's stage. For 3 years, she's performed her music to passers-by, helping in her own way to keep London's busking scene humming. While the internet is integral to promoting her music, Charlotte believes nothing can beat busking. An online campaign has helped Charlotte fund 2 albums, but when it comes to earning a living, there's no substitute for the street.
I make more money in 1 hour of busking than I would from a YouTube video that has 30,000 views, because the payment from YouTube only comes if people watch the advert at the start. If they press skip, then you don't get any money. So the majority of people will skip the advert, so I get 3 pence per person maybe, if I'm lucky.
Somewhere I belong.
Joe Fox is a busker who did get lucky. He was discovered on the streets of London's bustling Soho by American rapper A$AP Rocky. He's featured in 5 songs on the artist's new album, which reached #1 in the US charts, and he believes busking has been essential to building his career.
If I had never busked, I wouldn't have my confidence, personality. So you learn a lot, and it makes you quite brave. So then when you are in a situation in a studio, you feel more comfortable.
While London's Mayor Boris Johnson has restricted where buskers can perform in the capital, he's also introduced an annual busking competition to raise performers' profiles. But even well-established musicians see the value in taking to the streets.
There are many artists like Ed Sheeran who still perform major sellout gigs but want to perform to the public, want to busk. There's a real tradition to busking here in the UK, but I still believe in 2015 so many artists still want to connect with the public by performing on the streets. It's a great way of road testing their material.
As for Charlotte, she plans to keep honing her skills on the street whilst waiting patiently for her own shot at the big time.
In a moment, we'll talk to Lior Yamin about Israeli design, but first, our cultural recommendation for today.
These are unique images documenting the life of Native Americans. The photographer is Edward Curtis. Born in 1868 in Wisconsin, he eventually moved to Minnesota and then to Seattle, where he would become the most important photographer of the city. But in addition to his professional activities, he decided to photograph the life of Native Americans of the region. Very soon, this became the project of his life. He made portraits of over 80 Native American tribes in the American West. A 30-year project that also led him to ruin. His work was rediscovered in the 1970s. Now, the Cincinnati Taft plays tribute to Curtis in his exciting and moving pictures, a beautiful exhibition that reflects the diversity and richness of the Native American cultures of the past.
Lior Yamin is the owner of Asufa, a store dedicated to Israeli design, and 50 by 70, a website where Israeli designers and illustrators can sell prints of their work. His latest initiative is the Saga Gallery, which showcases Israeli design and furniture and also serves as a venue for exhibitions spotlighting different artists. Lior, thank you for joining us.
Hello, welcome. Thank you.
So tell me about your latest initiative, Saga Gallery.
Actually, Saga is design gallery. Like we're dealing with just Israeli design. It's premium products, and that's it.
Why did you feel that a Saga Gallery was needed? You already had a Sufa, you had a website. Why was Saga now needed?
Actually, it was my dream. I wanted to work with Israeli designers as a designer myself, and in Asufa, it was like a small shop that I can afford and deal with a lot of designers, but not the big products and furnitures and expensive things. So here now in Saga, I can complete the whole picture, let's say, like dealing with a variety of products, of design products.
And you said you yourself, you're an artist as well. How does your personal interpretation or your talents take place in Saga? Do you impact what you bring in? Do you impact the showcases?
Yeah, I think it's it could work only that way. I'm a designer. I studied here in Israel. I have a degree, and because I love this, I love design. I love to work with designers. I love this whole thing. I can work with a lot of patience about it and collect and choose and I don't know, like dealing with how to put it in space and how to sell it. You need really to love it to work so much with it.
You of course, are a designer as well, and also you're behind the business side. Is it hard to be both in one place? You know, on the one hand, trying to go towards art and design, but also looking at the economical implications?
Yeah, of course, and I learned all by myself, all
How?
the way.
How do you even start?
Just started with it, and then during the time I studied and learned how to make it as a business.
And the price ranges, though, are pretty different than what you've been used to in a Sufa and on your website. That tried to make it more accessible for anyone just to go in and look at Israeli design. Saga is a different price range.
Because totally. The price range starts from the manufacturer that is in Israel. When a designer manufactures his own product, it's always will be a little bit more expensive. And also it's the designing the product and the materials and everything makes it a little bit more expensive. But I don't think it's too much, okay? I think the prices is fair. The prices is, if you take a look at similar products like this, even when they come from abroad, even when they are mass-produced, they have like more or less the same range of prices. How
could you characterize, if you could, Israeli design? Is it something that you can? Are there specific traits that you can attribute to Israeli design, or is it, you know, so pluralistic that you can't really categorize it?
Now I study my second degree in curating, and this is the subject I'm dealing with. Like, what's so special in Israeli design? I think that the starting point is that the Israeli designers are much more mature. They start to study when they are 24 and 25 years old, which, I don't know, in Europe, when I met in when I exchange students, usually they are 19, 20, so we are a little bit more mature. We had the army at back of us, and then I think it's different starting point, and then the whole Israeli design is, I don't know, like, it start from there, and then it's get its own character.
And when we talk about Israeli design as part of the global scene, is it a good scene for collectors? Are there collectors' items that you can?
I think it's a great scene. I know that most of the designers I work with in Saga, they are very famous in the world. Suddenly it's more than in Israel. They're like...
meaning collectors from around the world are looking towards
collectors,
Israel.
Galleries, exhibition in museums. They choose those Israeli designers. Milan Design Fair, yes, you can see a lot of Israeli designers. It really works there in the design scene, in the worldwide design scene, and here in Israel, it's a beginning.
Is there a big difference when we speak about art as a whole and design? Can we talk about those differences?
Yeah, of course. I think the design wants to be like art. I think the process is kind of similar, but still, design is more. It's like more of a product. You can see it's a table. It's not a sculpture. And somehow they react differently when it's art and when design. But I think that collecting design is starting getting more and more part of the...
accelerating.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me what you have here on the table. You brought some products, of course, Israeli design. What do we have here?
Yeah, I have one of my, the best products we made and a great project is Haggadah Shel Pesach. It's a book we read in Passover. And here I have like two examples. This is we made in 2013, and this one is the last one, 2015.
So the same text, just design-based.
Exactly. The same text is always, is like 2,000 years. But here we choose, each page is different designer. And it's like 45 different designer every Haggadah. We had 3 already. And now we were actually working on the English version, like English and Hebrew version.
So that definitely is something that could make an impact worldwide, of course.
Yeah.
You're doing an event now in collaboration with Israeli illustrators. What's that about?
Yeah, actually, you mentioned Asufah 5070 and Saga. We work in Asufah with designers, we work in 5070 with illustrators, and now there's Illustration Week in Tel Aviv. So we made a project together. We took one designer and one illustrator that works together on a project. Some of them took a product of the designers and made an illustrated version. Some of them took an illustration of the illustrator and made product from it, like a 3D-dimensional. And some of them make like totally new things from this collaboration.
So that's here in Tel Aviv for Israel Illustration Week?
Yeah, Illustration Week. We have a grand opening on Saturday.
Lior Yamin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's it from us for today. You can check us out on our website, i24news.tv. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, please join us again tomorrow. We'll see you soon.